Let's talk about finding part of a whole. So for all of today's work, we are going to be using this proportion. This proportion is useful for when we are working with percentages. We are always going to set our proportion up as percent over 100 equals part over whole, okay? So everything we're doing today, we're either trying to find the percent, the part, or the whole. So one of these is going to be our variable, and the other two we'll know, all right? So let's say we're trying to find 45% of 32. Our first step is to write the proportion. So you always look for the words percent of, okay? Because percent of, right after that, after the words percent of is going to be the whole number. So it's going to be what goes on the bottom, all right? So if we look at this problem, it says 45% of, that means this is our whole number, okay? So when we set up our proportion, since we know that 32 is the whole, that's going to go on the bottom, and the 100 always goes on the bottom of the percentage, and 45 is the percent, okay? So what we don't know is the part. That's our variable. So we wrote our proportion, and it's going to be set up that way every single time. It's just that the variable is going to move. And now we cross multiply, so we do 45 times 32 and 100 times x. So 45 times 32 is 1,440 equals 100x. And then we divide, so we divide both sides by 100 to get the variable by itself. And so 14.4 is our answer. That is 45% of 32. Okay? So let's do number 2 together. 74% of 95. Again, I'm going to set up my proportion. It's always going to be percent over 100 equals part over whole. This right here says 74%, so that means the 74 goes there. And then I always look for percent of, because after percent of comes the whole number. So we have percent of, that means 95 is our whole. So we are solving for the part. So again, we are going to cross multiply. 74 times 95 is 7,030. It's going to equal 100x, and so I'm going to divide by 100. Dividing by 100 is the same as moving the decimal place over 2 spots. So, and so 70.3 is 74% of 95. You could also type it on your calculator, divided by 100, and it'd be 70.3. So I'd like you to pause the video and do these 3 problems, and then restart to check your work. And don't let it confuse you that this is more than 100%. You still just put it on top of the 100. So pause the video and do the work, and then restart to check your answers. All right, so this one is going to be set up as 80 over 100, because it's 80%. And I see percent of, which means this is my whole. So 72 goes on the bottom. And then I'm going to cross multiply. So 100x equals 80 times 72. 5,760, and so 57.6 equals x. That's 80% of 72. For 130% of 46, I'm going to do 130 over 100. 46 on the bottom there because that's my whole. And so then I'm going to do 130 times 46. I get 5,980. Divide both sides by 100. And so x equals 59.8. So since I was finding 130% of 46, that's more than 46. So it makes sense that my answer would be higher than 46. All right, for 235% of 85, you should have done 235 over 100 equals x over 85. We should get 100x equals 1,900, or 19,000, sorry, 975. Divide both sides by 100. And x equals 199.75. So that's how you can use a proportion to find the part of a whole.